Welcome to Podcast of All Podcasts. Enjoy best moments of podcast history. Episode 22. We're starting with Cat Stevens.
It's not time to make a change. Just relax, take it easy. You're still young, that's your fault. There's so much you have to know. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me, I am old, but I'm happy. I was once like you are now, and I know that it's not easy to be calm when you found something going on. But take your time, think a lot. Why, think of everything you've got, for you will still be here tomorrow, but your dreams may not. How can I try to explain? When I do, he turns away again. It's always been the same old story. From the moment I could talk, I was ordered to listen. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go. It's not time to make a change. Just sit down, take it slowly. You're still young, that's your fault. There's so much you have to go through. Find a girl, settle down. If you want, you can marry. Look at me, I am old, but I'm happy. That I've cried, keeping all the things I knew inside. It's hard, but it's harder to ignore it. If they were right, I'd agree, but it's them they know, not me. Now there's a way, and I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go.
Deck Shepard with Dr. Drew.
Had any kind of baggage that required you were going to have to prove to the world you were a doctor? If it wasn't your father.
No, very, very different experience for me. Clearly, it was something more about my identity and my doing. Because I struggled with it in college. I didn't want to do it. It's not me. Everyone expects this of me. So I was sort of expected to do it.
Yeah.
And I rejected it, and I screwed around for a year and a half, and I got very depressed and had panic attacks and all kinds of psychiatric symptoms. And as I was struggling, one day I went, but one thing I'm not going to go backwards. I'm not going to take their job, their world. And I thought, well, you do like science. What if you were to do it? And I started feeling better as I started thinking about doing these things that I'm really good at.
Uh-huh.
And the more I moved towards it, the better I felt. And then I got excited, and then I got invested.
Well, is it because you made it yours?
Exactly. It's precisely right.
Mm.
But still, the identity was still some sort of subconscious processing of mom and dad and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it also was mine now. It was truly mine. And I always remember first year medical school, I'd park on the roof of this parking structure. And I had anatomy lab at the end of the day every day. And I'd walk out in the sunset, just go, oh, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so happy.
Oh, that's
so much fun. I loved my training. 8 years of training, and I really dug it. And as it went on, I got more and more and more and more into it. And, and then I became a severe workaholic, severe.
How's that going?
It's way better.
Is it way better?
I still.
Oh, that's good.
Really? No, it's way better. Now I don't feel. I mean, I felt it then. Now I'm busy, but it's busy that doesn't bother me. I like it.
Yeah.
And then I was having dread, and I was not sleeping, and I was just for years and years.
But let me ask you this: as someone who, because you're not an addict, you weren't forced to go be thoroughly humbled and then take advice from other people and do all this stuff. Mm-hmm. How does one who doesn't go through that process? How do you have the willingness to confront your identity? Do you evaluate your own identity and just have a checks and balances like, Drew, this is bullshit. This is something you think people like about you, and no one do you do that?
Lots of it, but I've always done it. But I'm very, very self-critical. But it got more realistic in an interpersonal context again, and that was therapy.
Right.
Therapy I got so much out of therapy.
You did
everything.
How many years were you?
11 years.
Really?
11. I did a 3-year closure.
Oh, wow. What, that's to say goodbye?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
You built this person a very nice house, probably.
Possibly, but I
it was worth every penny.
Oh, my God. And I it was deep sort of psychotherapy and stuff, and I fell into some trauma stuff, all kinds of stuff that I didn't know was sitting around.
Right.
And towards the end, like the last couple of years, she started going, "Why are you here? You're not doing anything. You're not doing any work." I mean, I was like, "Yes, I got to come. I need more. And I'm like, I want to keep. And she's like, "Well, you're not doing anything." And finally, I went, maybe I need to go, and started working right again. So. Okay. And I realized that something that I had gotten none of growing up was rapprochement. Do you know what that is?
No, I do not. That sounds French.
It's a French word for coming.
I got horny when you said it. So.
For coming and going, approach and maneuver. Away. Okay. Come and away. And it's what kids do when they're gaining autonomy. They go, "Mommy, watch me." Go out and come back for refueling. And they go, they do some stuff, take more risks, and they come back and get refueling.
Okay.
Well, I had none of that. Zero. I mean, zero.
Because you were so closely monitored and helicopter parented?
Well, it was a little more pathological.
Your mother probably had a ton of anxiety, and you were something she could control, and it felt great?
Until she couldn't, and then I had to be rejected.
Oh, sure.
So as soon as I started to express autonomy, get away. I can't. No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
So it's either all in or all out.
I've heard so many little pearls of wisdom from you over the years, and I don't even know where I heard you talking about this, but you were saying that what seems to be kind of ubiquitous in our culture is that parents are trying so hard to be such great parents that they're doing every single thing they can to prevent the kid from having any kind of discomfort or upset.
Yeah.
And then you also said that because our children are an extension of our own ego.
Well, they shouldn't really be.
They shouldn't be, but we make them an extension of our ego. Yes. And we, of course, are inclined to prevent discomfort in ourselves. So naturally extends.
So two things. One is, we don't have a good boundary between us and them, so their feelings become our feelings. And from an ego standpoint, they represent us.
Sure.
Two different things. Different things. Yeah.
I find myself all the time. I'll take my 5-year-old somewhere, and she has this defense mechanism. We get too much attention when we go out, and so when too many adults start talking to her as some kind of like conduit to us, she doesn't like it, understandably, and her response is to talk in baby talk. Mind you, it took me many times of watching this before I realized, this is her way of saying, shut the fuck up, stop talking to me.
Maybe, or she's regressing because she feels scared.
Okay, either or.
Yeah.
Either way, I had to recognize that I was embarrassed that the 5-year-old was talking baby talk.
Yeah, of course.
Which is preposterous.
Right.
I'm not talking baby talk.
That's
and
right.
I do the same thing. I think we all do the same thing with our parents. Like, actors' parents will visit a set and they're just mortified for 4 hours.
Oh, that's funny.
And they forget that another actor's parents were just on set the other day and they weren't mortified for that actor. They just recognize them as parents that are older and, but you really take on that shared family identity, right?
Yes.
And so every time I hear, like, she'll start talking baby talk in public, I can't stand it. It's embarrassing, but then I just go, I'm not going to tell her not to talk baby talk because it's just my embarrassment. If she's not embarrassed and this is somehow helping her get that person away from her, whatever.
It's also societal, though, that you feel they're representing you, because people will say, like, Dax Shepard's kid, or even if you're not famous, that person's kid did this, so they must be parenting incorrectly.
No, you're right. They will. The family sort of crest is identified with the bad behavior of one member of that family.
Yeah.
But back to what I was
because it's all back to the tribes and in-groups and the out-groups and everything. All that stuff represented.
I personally am judgmental of some of my friends' kids, their behavior. I'm assuming my friends are doing a terrible job. That's awesome. Ruling out any biochemical issues that are going on.
I don't know what to do with that. My kids are now 25. I have 25-year-old triplets, and they're starting to complain now about stuff like that I wasn't around, or I was famous, or that they were having to subjugate their needs to me and my brand or people's sense of me. And I'm like, dude, don't do that. If you want to go do something or speak ill of me publicly, please proceed.
Yeah.
That's my problem. I'll deal with it. It's not me telling you how to be. You please.
But your overall point, which I think needs to be heard by all parents, is that what you sow, or rather what you reap when you do this.
Oh yeah.
When you prevent them from ever feeling discomfort or embarrassment or
There's a great book out there
or heartbreak
called The Gift of Failure, about parenting.
Okay. We just had Dr. Wendy Mogul on, who wrote The Gift of a Skin Knee.
Yeah, same idea.
Blessing of
same idea.
Yeah. So what you were saying was, if your children, if you never allow them to develop some coping mechanisms, you will eventually send them off to college. They will meet the real world full of tons of disappointment, and they will have no option but to use drugs virtually.
Potentially, if those feel good to them, because they have to have a certain genetic setup for it to feel good.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I guess I should have let you say that because it was your statement.
No.
I just wanted to remind you.
No, it's good.
It was just a real light bulb moment for me where I thought, oh yeah, man, if you don't go through all that stuff.
And there's other stuff that I'm worried about now too, which is, I'll sort of put under the category of grit and insurmountable tasks. Both are important experiences. Grit meaning overcoming adversity and struggling without us intervening and saving it.
Right.
And the other is having some sort of insurmountable task in your life, overcoming something that you think you couldn't do. I had a couple experiences like that. And one of my sons did too. And I was talking about it and it was like, yep, I know what that
was
is.
Yours?
I had two. One was I was the crappiest football player in the world, and I became the captain of a football team.
Really?
I just gritted it out. Now, at a little private school and stuff, it wouldn't have been possible anywhere, but I did it.
Right.
And then the other was when I was screwing around, hey, you're not the boss of me, man, in college, and then decided to go to medical school. There's no way I'm going to pull that off.
Right.
I remember I actually had a visual image in my head of a brick wall that went to infinity, like Jack and the Beanstalk. And I had to get over that wall. And I just thought, one brick at a time, man, just start putting the pegs in the bricks. Let's just go.
Yeah.
And pretty soon I was over the wall. And my son, football, he was not a great football player, ended up anchoring an offensive line. And same school, same problem with a math degree he had to get to. And he just did this amazing job and this impossible discipline.
Right.
And both, he feels like,
doesn't that give you such a,
he can handle anything now,
Isn't that the most prideful moment you can have when you watch your kids overcome something they're not immediately great at? It's just,
I think, except they will let you know that, because although I thought it was really important, it was exactly what I wanted him to experience. He, of course, blames me for the misery of it. So they got to let you know. It's not something you can hold the pride for very long.
Yeah, well, you just can't let them know that.
That's right.
But I will say, having had two kids now, I am daily shown how much of this recipe is just nature, right?
A lot of it.
My 5-year-old, we have these poles in the patio, and they go up to the roof.
Yep.
And she started trying to climb this pole. And she spent 90 minutes doing it. failing until she finally climbed it and touched the roof.
Wow.
And I'm just watching the whole thing, and I'm
for
like,
her.
I have nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
I couldn't have instructed her to
No.
do this. I can't reward her for
No.
doing it. She has it in her to just keep at that thing. And what a blessing, right? And I don't know that the 3-year-old has that, but we will find out.
Is it 2 girls or 1 girl?
2 girls.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, there's only so much you can kind of take credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can screw things up, though. I think that's mostly what we do as parents.
Yeah.
We mostly screw things up.
Yeah. And so the being recognizable and and I don't want to put you in a position where you have to air too much of what your kids are saying to you. What do you think you could have done better? What should I be doing better? Because I think about it quite often.
Yeah.
To be honest. Part of it is what it is, right? I can't not be famous. I can't turn a switch on at the airport.
And I was in full survival mode with triplets, and I had to make ends meet, and I couldn't be home.
Right.
Could I have been home more? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could I have been less driven? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could I have been less anxious? Because I was super anxious back then, for sure. Could I have interfered with some of the stuff my wife was doing that they're complaining about now?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's her. And she's who I married, and she's your mom, and I can't really change or control her necessarily.
Right. Because I tell this to new dads. I'm like, if you want to say in how these kids are going to be raised, you got to change half the fucking diapers, and you got to wake up and feed them half the time. You're only entitled to equivalent levels of advice as you are putting into it. And I think traditionally or in the past, dad's gone so much that he just really isn't entitled to kind of say what he thinks should be being done.
No, I was active, very active, and in there, but my daughter says not enough.
Right.
So,
and also, and this is what I think of sometimes too, is that I don't know where the concept comes from that you're entitled to perfect parents and that they should be there with you all the time. Because I certainly felt that way. Like, but at the same time, that's not reality. Someone has to go out and bring food home, right?
That's exactly right. And so I just keep thinking to myself, they need to have kids. They need to have kids. Once they have kids, this will all stop. Because you realize it's just you've got to survive, especially with triplets.
God,
we were. No, I would have left if I were you. I would have just owned the fact that I was going to be a degenerate dad.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah,
it happens a lot with triplet parenting.
It's a lot.
That's what they sat us down. They said reduce to 2 because no marriages make it through this.
Right. It's like having an autistic child. Your rate of divorce just goes through the roof.
Chris Hardwick with Steve Carell.
I was singing a song with my best friend Mike Furman about dinosaurs on the Jimmy Kimmel show.
I do remember that.
And you were on, and what I remember about it is that you started sweating.
Oh my God, I remember that.
What do you remember what it was that happened?
It was the first talk show I'd ever done.
Are you serious?
In my life. That was the first time. It was when Anchorman was about to come out. And it's the first time I'd ever been invited on a talk show. And I had the pre-interview, and you talk about the little story you're going to tell. And he set me up for the story, and I blanked. And I tried to kind of stumble through it, but I couldn't tell it. And I was trying to remember what I'd said. And I broke out into a flop sweat and it was just pure nervous sweat. And it got to the point where Jimmy Kimmel had to stop and say, "That's crazy how you look right now. You sweat more than anyone I've ever seen in my life."
The best part about it, though, is because people knew who you were, I think everyone thought it was a bit, so it totally played off.
I tried to play it off as a bit. When they came back from commercial, I had actually doused my entire body with a bottle of water to make it seem like a bit, but that was probably my worst experience. That was my broadcast news sweat experience.
Well, that's so interesting because you'd already been on what, 5 seasons of The Daily Show by that point.
But I'd never done anything. It's different, I guess, being yourself. It's different going on a show and then having to be charming and engage in cocktail conversation, essentially. And I wasn't good at it. I didn't know how to do it, and I was just super intimidated by the whole experience.
Do you find that because one thing, just sort of going back a little bit, I know you were at Second City, right?
Right.
With Colbert, you guys were there around the same time.
Yeah.
And so you guys are both perfect examples of people of comedians who, when you're in a scene, you're committed, and there's no wink to the camera. There's no you become those characters, and you're totally committed. And so I wonder, for performers who are used to doing that, what's the adjustment period for having to just be yourself? Because obviously, if you just wanted to be yourself, you might be a comic, like a stand-up or something.
And neither of us were stand-ups. I don't have a bunch of jokes at my disposal, and I don't have bits to do, and I don't have things that. And I thought, I'll tell this charming story about my baby or whatever, and it felt so flat, and then you feel like the audience isn't on your side, and it's a very different experience just trying to be yourself and not playing any sort of character. And I think eventually what you have to do, I think what most people do is present sort of a version of who they are, not a real person
Right.
in a way. Because I think there's a layer, you sort of protect yourself and you don't want people to you don't want to reveal too much on one of those shows.
Sure.
But, from there on, what I decided is that I wasn't going to necessarily try to hit any plot points or story points about anything that we had predetermined to talk about. Because I feel like when I get locked in, it's like improvisation. I feel like as soon as you start predetermining anything and you try to hit that, you get in your head and you can't even talk. So I just decided I'm gonna just be looser with it and not.
That's
worry.
good. It's easier, and I think the sort of the old school talk shows. It was like, and I think to some degree, Leno might still be like this. Actually, that's the one show I've never done. And Letterman, but I think it's like he says this, and then you say this, and then he says this, and then you say this, and it feels like this is a scene. We're just doing a scene. Can we talk?
It can feel that way, and a lot of times they do loosen it up when they go off the script. When they go off of, there are those beats they kind of want you to get to, and they want you to set up the clip of the movie, and so there is a structure to it. But I enjoy it when you just find things and they just happen naturally.
Ferguson's great at that, and
he's great.
Fallon and Conan, and they're all really fun. Is it weird to? I mean, when you sort of get to the place that you're in, which is like, when people think of like, who are the comedy stars? They're like, Steve Carell. Is it a weird amount of pressure to every time I open my mouth, I have to be funny? Is there that sort of weird thing?
Actually not, because well, with that appearance, I set the bar so low that I didn't, anything was going to be better than that. And I decided also early on that I wasn't going to push too hard to really have some swinging for the fences comedy bits on these shows, because when I was growing up, I always liked watching Johnny Carson and those guys, and the best guests in my mind on the show were the people who just seemed like they were having a ball. And it was like when, I'll never forget, people like Steve Martin, people like Burt Reynolds would come on the show, and it would be hysterical because they weren't trying too hard. It was just a conversation, and it didn't seem pre-planned. So that's kind of, so no, I mean, to answer your question, I don't think people expect me to be funny necessarily in person, because they know I'm not a stand-up in any way. So, and I'm really not that funny. I mean, clearly. So no, I don't really feel that pressure.
I loved the Dana Carvey show, by the way.
Oh God.
I absolutely loved that. I thought that show was so edgy for network television and like breaking fourth walls and ahead of its time. And I was so bummed out when that show got canceled, because it was.
I think the writing was on the wall from the very first from the first scene. I think that show, the fate was sealed, because if you remember, the very first scene was Dana as President Clinton, revealing himself as the most nurturing president ever, and he opened his shirt to display nipples, like 8 nipples. Like they had this lactating. Did you see that?
I don't remember.
If you go back, and you can now buy the DVDs, but it was like a prosthetic chest piece that actually lactated, and they put puppies on the table and they started sucking on these nipples on his chest. And the viewership, we were right after Home Improvement. The viewership, they actually charted it. It went from an amazing viewership, and after that scene, it fell like to a quarter of the audience. So
Oh, that's such a
I
bummer.
loved it though. I loved the chances that they took. Robert Smigel was a head writer.
Yeah.
And Dana and Louis C.K. was one of the chief writers on it, and Charlie Kaufman was a staff writer. They had a great group of people on that show.
There was skinheads from Maine.
Oh yeah.
That's for now.
Yeah.
Never did care much for the Negroes. Like, how are they saying this on
I
television?
know. It was like 8:30.
Yeah.
On a Thursday or something.
Later on, but this is the two guys on the porch. Later on, we'll go bash the Henderson queer, like in those Maine accents. It was such. I feel like that show was so edgy, but obviously also, really just kind of a. These are all the comedy stars of the next 10 years. Like everyone involved in that show.
It was kind of a brain trust when you look back at it.
Colbert was on there too.
Yeah, he and I were both cast in that show, and then from there, a couple of years later, he was working on the Daily Show, and then we both got jobs on the Daily Show. So we kind of followed each other.
Were you friends that whole time, or would you?
Yeah, we became friends in I think '88. We've been friends for a long time, and we've performed. Yeah, I really want to do something else with him. He's probably the smartest person I've ever met, as well as one of the most talented. He's a great actor. Obviously, I mean, he's playing a character
Right.
seamlessly,
Nonstop.
not stop. Which when he told me the concept of the Colbert Report, I didn't know how he was going to pull it off, but he's done it. So I think he also is a great musician. He's a really good singer, guitar player. He can kind of do anything.
If you guys were going to do something together, would it be would it be a film, or do you think it would be
I wouldn't even care. I would anything he would want to do. I would jump in. I think he's the best.
It is those first handful of seasons from the Daily. I mean, obviously the Daily Show is sort of now it's the Daily Show, but at the time, it was. I remember sitting in it's like 1995 or 6 or something. I was in New York, and I was meeting with Doug Herzog, who was one of the heads of Comedy Central at the time, and he was like, "Oh, we're going to start this daily show. It's like this news, it's kind of like a daily." He just kept describing it as a daily show, and then it became the Daily Show, and then Craig Kilborn had his version of it. So to come in and just do a completely different version of the show that actually became what the Daily Show is.
Yeah.
Did you? What was it like coming in at that point?
I came in about 6 months after Jon Stewart had taken over, and ironically, it was probably the best move I ever made career-wise to get on that show. Like the one of the luckiest breaks I ever had, and I really owe it to Steven, because he had been there for about a year, I think, or less, and they were looking for new correspondents. People had left, and he's the one who recommended me to Madeline Smithberg, the producer, and to John, and they gave me a tryout. So I remember him calling me and saying, "Would you be interested in doing this?" And it's hard because you kind of have to you have to get into a character, and you have to play this character all day long, and you have to basically trick people into thinking you're a reporter, and it's a difficult thing to swing, but because it's equal parts of improvisation and political satirism, and I mean, it was not anything that anyone could really be trained to do. You just kind of had to jump in with both feet and do it, and it worked out. So I really owe him that. But at the time, the show was sort of evolving too. I think it started out much more cruel than it ended up being.
Oh, without a doubt.
And that was part of the difficulty that I knew I was going to have going in, because I didn't want to go in and just shoot fish in a barrel and make fun of people who really didn't deserve to be made fun of.
That had no idea that they were,
They had no idea or weren't deserving of it. Just people who were eccentric or quirky or different. And I think that should be celebrated rather than made fun of personally. And so my agenda on the show is to put it on myself as that character of the correspondent, and that I would make myself look like the idiot. And that way it would just sort of take the onus off of them. So I, and I think Stephen did the same thing. His reports, his field work was the best. He was very, very brave. He went into some situations involving skinheads and neo-Nazis, and he was fearless.
He is pretty fearless. You really just have to.
Marshall Tucker Band.
Jump off, nobody gonna know. Can't you see? Oh, can't you see what that woman, Lord, she been doing to me? Can't you see? Can't you see what that woman, she been doing to me? I'm gonna buy a ticket now, as far as I can. Ain't a never coming back. Riding me a southbound, all the way to Georgia now, till the train and run out of track. Can't you see? Oh, can't you see what that woman, Lord, she been doing to me? Can't you see? Can't you see what that woman, she been doing to me? Oh, can't you see? Whoa, can't you see what that woman, Lord, she been doing to me? Can't you see? Lord, I can't stand still. What that woman, she been doing to me? Can't you see? I'm gonna take a freight train down at the station, Lord. What that woman ain't never coming back. Oh, can't you see? Gonna ride me a southbound down all the way to Georgia, Lord. What that woman till the train and run out of track.
Marc Maron with John Oliver.
It's all mind blowing, dude. I mean, it's like
it really knocks you around. Just standing in this thing that is still upright, to some extent, and just imagining what those walls have seen.
Oh God, yeah.
And even when they start describing stuff, saying, and this is where two lions would fight in the middle sometimes. And there's part of you which thinks, yeah, I could watch that.
Yeah, of course you could watch.
I mean,
that.
I know we shouldn't do that anymore. And most of me doesn't want to watch it, but part of me thinks, yeah, I could watch two lions fight.
No, now we've replaced that with sad, pathetic people who try to dig themselves out of their own trash and maybe find cats.
Well, that's it. Also, walking around Rome, you can kind of see why Italy has had a problem with fascism, because it's built around exceptionalism so much. They have these buildings which were designed and still are designed to say this was the greatest moment in humanity. We were the best.
Yeah.
And then it's tied with the fact that there is still this kind of emotional idiocy in the country. Because I went straight from the Coliseum back to the hotel and turned on the TV, and there was a game show, and there were two guys on it in blackface.
No.
Yep.
So that's still going on.
Yeah. So you think, oh, there you go, Italy. This is why you had problems.
Yeah. Well, that's
These two things together.
That's why every place has
or
problems.
a Molotov cocktail.
Sure. There's there's the powerful class.
Yeah.
And then there are the rubes.
Yeah.
And some of them are angry.
Yeah.
And it behooves the power to keep them stupid. So you had the Vatican, and you had the other thing going on.
The Forum. There was that bit where the Temple of the Vestal Virgins, where those women who would for 10 years had to keep this flame alight.
Yeah.
And that was all they had to do. And if it went out, they were burnt to death. And you think that's barbaric. And then some part of me was going back to the head of the guy going, look, all you had to do was keep this alight. I asked one thing of you. That's it. Just keep the flame going. I don't think that's too much. And you couldn't do that for 10 years, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And then two things, I guess, because they weren't allowed to have sex either. But I guess you don't want the distraction of boyfriends in this.
But somebody fell asleep on the job, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you rugby, that's your sport?
No.
Soccer?
Not at all. I just play, soccer's my... Don't go to me.
Football?
I don't even like saying that word.
Soccer?
I would rather be misunderstood. It's football.
No, I understand what you think it is.
Yeah. Well, no, we did it first. I mean, that's just...
It's a different game.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's called soccer.
No, it is not.
You're telling me that football wasn't soccer to begin. Where did soccer come from? Smart guy.
Soccer was before rugby, because I think rugby was invented with guys playing soccer, and one of them picked up the ball and ran with it.
Yeah.
At a place called Rugby in England.
Right, and everybody got excited, like something new. They decided to bend the rules a little bit and make an entirely new sport.
Yeah, I think basically he picked it up. Everyone got annoyed, attacked him, and they thought, "There's a sport in this."
Look, I'm not a sports guy. I'm glad that you seem like a very reasonably minded person around competitive things.
I am I love sport.
But you learn that, like at some point, because you were in school, and this happens in America too, but this is just not my experience. Like I was always, everything was very life or death for me. That if I was on a team that was losing, it was probably my fault or my bad luck, and teamwork never worked for me. I never understood, the joy of competing with a bunch of other men and owning losing as much as you own winning.
Yeah, I think there are moments in sport, especially when you're a kid, that really hurt. I remember missing a penalty when I was 12 years old in a just like a local competition, and it probably took me 3 years to get over it.
Really?
Yeah. I just felt like at that point it was the worst thing that had ever happened to me, even though it wasn't.
Can you explain to me what that means? The penalty thing?
Oh, it's like a shootout in hockey.
Yeah.
So it's like the game is on the line. It's just it's been a draw the whole way through. Yeah, you get a free shot, and each team gets 5 of them, and then the team.
It should be a no-brainer, right?
But it's all built around individual failure,
right?
Because then you are the person who has lost it,
right?
In that single moment, single kick of the
ball. Yeah, I understand this,
and it absolutely broke me.
Did you get? Were your teammates like you? They didn't care,
right?
They
didn't care because we're children.
Yeah,
I think they would think, oh yeah, well we'll just do something else later and tomorrow. But for something, and my only redemption for that was that years and years later at the Edinburgh Festival, there was this charity football match that I played in, and I had to take a penalty, and I scored it. And I nearly burst into tears.
Closure.
Yeah.
Full circle.
There was an internal closure.
No one knew what you were going through.
No one knew. And were probably concerned as to why in this equally meaningless game, there was a guy who doesn't cry visibly on the edge of tears. Okay. We're done. We're done.
It's weird that there are things like that we carry around like that.
Well, actually, in that same, I guess, I think that goes, in that, I scored another goal in that game. I think I remember, and we won. And my dad was watching. My dad always wanted me to be a footballer more than he wanted me to be anything else.
Like a professional
and
footballer?
To play for Liverpool, yeah. And as a joke, I took my shirt off, like, sometimes footballers do that in celebrations. So I took my shirt off and I ran up into the crowd bit and gave it to my dad.
Yeah.
As kind of a joke.
Yeah.
and he was moved. I've not really seen him move much in his life, and I think he realised this is as close as I could give him to the son that he wanted. This is a comedian, which no parent wants.
Yeah.
But for one day, in a meaningless moment, being a footballer, giving the T-shirt to him.
But you were doing
and
it.
he kept it at home.
He has it?
He has it.
That's beautiful because it was a joke.
It was a joke, but there was something else going on there, I think.
Sure.
I had my moment of redemption, and in a sense, he had an acceptance of the disappointment I felt in this boy. He has done the best he could, which was not enough, but I think I've realised we've maxed out, and now we can both move on. I think there was the same sense in his mind of, it is done.
How old were you?
Then, I guess, it was Edinburgh, so I must have been like 25, 26.
Oh, so, okay, so that was where your father, that's where he saw you?
Yeah, he was up in Edinburgh as well, and they just came to see this game.
They didn't come to see you show?
Oh, I think they did, but I don't like them coming to see you stand up.
But he came to see the game.
Yeah, because that means, but I completely understand that.
But at 25, you're probably a comedian for what, 5 years already? How old?
Yeah.
So he just knew you were going to be playing football?
No, every time I used to go back at Christmas, he'd ask how comedy was going, and then he would just remind me of the conversation of course, this is not what I wanted for you. It's going great, but I remember that I wanted you to be a footballer. I know. Remember, that's also what I wanted.
Yeah.
But both of us have to somehow accept that is, and then I couldn't even say the word over, because that, I haven't, still now I haven't fully accepted that.
But it's so that's a genuine. It's interesting to me because a father who's a social worker and a teacher and somebody who appreciates learning and moving in that direction really just wanted you to be a thug.
Yeah.
He just
well, and that's it. Even now, I know that I probably wouldn't get along with the culture of footballers. Most footballers in England are arseholes.
No, your own team would beat you up.
Yes. Well, and also I'd probably feel socially uncomfortable around them. But there is still a child in me that wants. You got to understand. I went to when my dad first started taking me to games. Mm-hmm. I would wear to Liverpool games. I would make him let me wear my full Liverpool kit. So this is me at 8, 9 years old. My full Liverpool kit underneath whatever I was wearing, because there was a part of me as a child that felt if someone got injured on the field,
I'm ready.
They would just turn to the crowd and say, "Does anyone have a kit so that we can carry on?" And I would say, "Yes. My name is John. I'm 8 years old." And clearly, somewhere in me, I think that this is going to turn out well. That this 8-year-old is going to be able to physically compete with these 29-year-old super fit athletes.
But that's the dream. That's touching. I wish I had that. I didn't.
I wore cleats. I wore cleats to the game as well.
You're ready to go.
Hear this clip-clop of this 8-year-old kid going, "Let's do this."
And your father let you do that because he thought, this is going to happen. He's this committed.
If this is what it takes, I can see it now. I can see it now. I'll tell this story. I'll tell this story to journalists when I'm talking about my child that won the cup.
And where was your mother during all this?
Just, I think, at home with her head in her hands going, "What is wrong with these men?"
But I have that too. Do you find that there's part of you that equally has contempt for, not necessarily athletes, but the type of, the same thing that made you think that you weren't going to be able to hang with this type of man?
Yeah.
Certainly in a group for very long without reprisal.
Yeah.
Where you would be
without
found
natural
out.
selection kicking in.
Yeah. Do you find that because I'm dealing with this on stage now? I'm talking about the idea of masculinity.
Yeah.
That there's because you're intelligent or because you didn't choose that way. There's a natural condescension there that you probably is unintentional because I'm sure you have respect for their skill set.
Oh, I love it.
Right. But so if you were around them, if you got to sit with your favorite players,
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I met by chance David Beckham.
Yeah.
In Las Vegas. I was doing the Vegas Comedy Festival, and it was in a restaurant with some friends of mine, and he was sitting at a table being not bothered by anyone because this is America and it's not the same cultural explosion around
He's not
here.
That important.
Yeah. And
the haircut was popular for a while.
Yeah. And I could not speak when I saw him.
Really?
And then one of the guys was actually his, worked with the agency that he was with, and he said, let me go and talk to him.
Yeah.
I've actually met him a few times, let me bring him over here. I was saying, please do not do that. Please do not do that. I can't do this. And he brought him over. All my friends were kind of talking. He was like, "Oh, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you."
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, nice to meet you, John. Nice to meet you. I've heard you're a comedian." Yeah. And I just fell apart. Oh, yes, David, I really like it when you play football. There was a pause. It was tense. All I knew that he was moving to Milan to play in the off season with the team there. And so I just said, "Oh, hope you have a really good time in Milan. That seems like a good move for you."
And what did he say?
He just said, "Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, thanks very much." And this, do you know what? This gets really embarrassing now. He's the guy who knew from his agency. He clearly asked him if he would sign something after the fact for me, because about a week later, this package turned up to my house and it was a football with to John, "Nice to meet you, David Beckham" on it. And
Joe Rogan with Todd Glass.
Filming shit, like everybody is just, and even if you're not, you're checking this and checking texts, and boy, we got a real addiction problem in this country. These are new things. These are new objects.
I realize, because I'm not delusional, that the amount of it, I can put most of it to rest with a pre-show announcement, where I'm at in my career. But I get it. As you get to different levels, there's different intensity. So I get it. But I changed my pre-show announcement when I went to see Brian Regan. The person next to me, they were texting. I couldn't hear them. Matter of fact, they even had their light down. So you think, well, what could bother me? And it did. And it didn't matter if it was right or wrong. I know what it was. Yeah. I wanted the person next to me to be loving him as much as I was loving him. Yeah. And the fact that I saw them on their phone all night, even they weren't making a peep, it started to bother the fuck out of me. I was getting angry. And then I went, no, I'm going to do the same thing at my show. I go, don't turn your thing all the way down. I go, I know what you think, and you pull it out near your knee. I go, seriously, if you pull your phone out after this announcement, you look like a dick. I go, and other than that, we're glad you're here. And you know what? You have to make that announcement a little longer, but it works.
I'm worried about people. I really are. This is a really new thing. The more I'm thinking about it, the more like looking at your phone constantly is really only 10 years old. Right? Like 2008-ish, the iPhone came around 2009, right? Before that, people were a little texty. Some people more texty than others. They really got into text messages. But once that iPhone came out, and once people started doing a bunch of stuff and apps and stuff on your phone, it changed the whole game.
You know, I don't know with this topic if I'm like, I could be way off or I could be off kilt, but the way I come to my conclusion about like, it is a weird thing. And even me, I can acknowledge it. Otherwise, if I don't acknowledge it, then you're never going to tell someone the opposing side if they don't think you get what you see it. But it just seems like in the past, now this could be different with no snarkiness at all. This could be a different thing. Every time they think there's one of these things, like TV, radio, it just seems like we get past it.
Oh, I think we'll get past it.
Well, you know what I mean? I didn't think the world was going to explode.
No, I'm worried about I'm not worried about the human race, but I'm worried about the lives of certain people, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because it's like saying, like, are you worried that crack's going to destroy the human race? No, I'm not worried that crack is going to destroy, but I do think it can destroy the lives of some people. And I feel the same way about this.
Right, like the texting. Like
it's not just that. It's like being plugged into electronics to the point where that's where you're getting most of your stimuli from. You're getting artificial stimuli. My concern, and this is a real concern, is that we're getting really into that, and that we're going to let it take the next step, which is some sort of an implant. I feel like this is like we're in a movie. We're in a movie about a person that becomes a machine. And we're watching this rationalization process as we slowly get more and more ingrained and interconnected with technology.
We'll definitely, in our lifetime, have somebody
100%.
I try, like what you were just addressing, like we said before, like I catch myself and I really try. Like if I had to give myself a grade on how much I've improved on like turning the phone off, like loving it for what's great about it, I give myself maybe a C-, but it means I've made some strides in like turning it off.
You're not an F.
Not an F, not from far. Matter of fact, I remember a week ago, I was going to the Grove and I went, I'm not meeting anybody. and I left my phone in the car.
Ooh, strong move. That's a strong move.
No, what sucked is I had two ideas.
In the car is like, woof.
I had two ideas, and I was high, and I didn't want to write them down. I went, shit, that's the thing about leaving your phone in the car. Take a picture or show someone a picture, or it doesn't have to always be. But anyway, I try to go and, never walking through a line.
That actually could encourage you to write. You could just use.
I hate writing.
But I mean, saying you can only use your phone when you have a note or an idea. That's the only time you could use it.
Well,
so you make like a loophole. Like, I'm pretending that I don't even have this phone unless I need to make a note.
You know what? I could put it on airplane mode.
You could put it on airplane mode.
And still have it for the other stuff. Although it weighs my pants down, oddly enough.
That's true.
Good conversation, right?
It does do that. No,
it does. It's weird.
They
pulling my
jam in your
pants up all
pockets
night
and shit. That's why I like fanny packs. People just mock me relentlessly.
Can I tell you something? There's no way. I say it all the time when I go, especially if I have my Altoids, and then I have a pipe, and then I go, what the fuck?
You're a pipe guy?
I still do for some reason.
You're old school. It's old school.
What else? What do you do?
You like jazz clubs? You like pipes?
What do you do? Like, what is your typical way to
Mostly
smoke?
joints or vape pens.
It's the rolling of the joint that I have a question for you.
Okay.
And I think you might know the answer. I smoke. I'm not going to
pressure.
Blame you if something happens. I know I switched conversation completely, but you might have the answer.
No worries.
I have two things I want to ask you a question
Okay.
about. Did I interrupt?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
I smoke now 7 nights a week.
Wow.
So I'll have like a joint. I would say if I had to put it in joint size, maybe a joint per night. So it's not that.
It's not a tremendous amount.
Not just at night. Not that I'm saying I want a prize for that. Just for me, it works better at night. But I say I quit smoking, and I did. I quit smoking. I used to smoke around a pack and a half a month.
That's
Is this as bad?
Pack and a half a month is pretty.
It wasn't horrendous, but I quit because I had a
couple a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this smoking 7 nights with just a joint as bad as when I smoke cigarettes?
No, it's not. It's not the same thing.
It's not even close?
No, it's not even close. There's no evidence that marijuana smoke causes cancer. What you can do is get respiratory irritation. You can, it can fuck with your voice.
What about tar?
But you can avoid all that stuff is what I was going to say with a vaporizer.
I know, that's what I should be
Vaporizer is the way to go. But it is a different high, oddly enough. Vaporizer seems like a little bit more clean in some weird way. When I get high with a vaporizer, I'm always like, whoa, this is like it's almost as if, this is going to sound so crazy, there's something that has to do with the fire interacting with the plant that connects you to nature. There's like something about a lit joint. You take it in, and I feel natural. When I vaporize, I feel alien. When I vaporize, I feel like what this is like, let's extract all of what it is to be a living thing and get to the molecules. What's the molecule? What temperature do I heat those bitches up where I can shove them right in your bloodstream? That's what the vaporizer sees. The vaporizer is like, hang on, Hannah. Like, woo! Like, you're not connected the same way. It's connected a different way. They're both amazing. It's not
That's
a
what
judgment
most people
call.
probably agree. I agree with you. Most people do, I think.
Yeah.
They'll be like, yeah, I know.
It's a different thing.
Even a joint, I don't roll joints because I'm lazy. But whenever someone has a joint and they put it, I go, this just happens so.
Yeah.
I get a little higher.
I like the smoke joints. It feels like it's real clear what's happening. There's a lot of these vape pens. You got to press them 5 times, then hold them, and you're sucking it in. You don't know what's in that oil, man. Who's making that stuff?
And
Who's
you get
making
yelled
that
at.
shit?
They yell at you when you can't do it. Just press it twice. All right, it doesn't work as easy as you think.
Jesus Christ, with the press it twice.
I got one more thing.
Do you ever fuck around with spray? Jumbo spray? You ever fuck around with Jumbo? Do you know what Jumbo is?
You put it in the water?
No, super organic, really high-end edibles and spray. And this fucking spray will put you on the moon.
Wow, do you have any?
Of course I do.
Wow, but I have to drive. I have someone hanging with me today, John Brand Wagner.
Yeah.
Give him a shout out.
This is the 1,000 milligram. Like if you drank the whole bottle, it's 1,000 milligrams.
That's too much to have, of course.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a half a spray.
Oh,
So do you think I'm safe to do it right now? It's always fun to experiment.
Just a little spray.
Especially because you're saying to do it. You know why? You know why it's more comfortable?
Why?
Because if something happens to me and I can't,
You
like,
blame me? Let's
well,
just don't blame me. Let's do it afterwards. Unless you want to do it now. I'm like the worst crack dealer ever. You can do it now.
I mean, it's who everybody wants to
Just
do
get a
it.
little taste.
Let me have a little. And then I do have a question. You might have an
Fear.
answer. What did you have? A half a spray?
I had one spray. Good enough.
Okay.
All right, we're in.
Wow.
What was the other question?
You think, why am I asking you this? But I think you might have an answer. So, but I'm being totally honest. I'm exhausted from dealing with, like, it's like, not like it's a big deal, but it's like the first time whether you can admit major things in your life, like, oh, I have a drinking problem, but there can be stupid little things, Mine is eating. Like, I am exhausted from doing it the wrong way. And everything comes back to me for self-control. So when people want to tell me about a diet, it's not portions. I know what portions are. I want to eat more. So it's all down to how do I fucking get self-control. I have zero. I mean, if I'm not going to call it zero self-control, then I don't know what the hell I'm going to call it. But it's very hard for me. At night,
you're very hard on yourself. I think you have self-control, Todd. I think you're a wonderful man, but you're hilarious. And one of the reasons why you're hilarious is because you're free, you're impulsive, and it's very difficult for that to lend itself to dietary discipline. It's like, I want to eat it. Fuck it. Want to eat it? Should I eat it? I'll just fucking eat it. Right? That's you. But it's also part of what makes you such a hilarious comic. It's like you have these impulses.
Wow, that makes me feel better.
Yeah, you don't want
Split
discomfort.
the difference, at least, with what you're saying.
Well, you don't want discomfort, and you want to have fun. It's like it's right there. I want to eat that food. Fuck it, right?
I just had a thought of me, like, picture me at the canter shoving cheesecake in my mouth, and my friends are, like, looking at me like, Todd, and I go, Joe Rogan said that because I'm creative that I should eat whatever I want. He said it, and you can go listen to his podcast. He said that I should eat. He told me. Joe Rogan, and you can go listen. He said, clear out the mini bar before you get in your hotel bed, even if you're not really hungry, because I'm creative. Okay, so I don't have control over this. Joe Rogan.
There's also a problem. There's another problem with discipline. This is a problem with discipline in comedy.
I think that hit me already.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's probably just the weed hit you. It takes a little while for the spray to get you. Usually a few more minutes than that. I forget my point. What was my point?
About the self-control.
Oh, that if you really discipline people in comedy, they don't go well together that much either. Because if you're too driven and too disciplined-y, that's almost always dicky. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you get too disciplined, too rigid, too determined, and too enthusiastic about success, you get dicky.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
And I'm not, this thought could be wrong. Like, I'm okay with thinking something and then maybe finding out. But whenever a comedian, and I bet there's funny ones out there, definitely, because over the years I remember them. I can't think of which ones, but they definitely exist. They are funny. They are funny. But they've never smoked, drank. Mm-hmm. Can you be a good comedian if you haven't done those things?
I think you could be a good comedian if you're a man. You could be a good comedian if you're a woman. You could be a good comedian if you're gay or trans. You are a good comedian if you're a good comedian.
Why do I ask that? Because I should be embarrassed to ask that.
There's a lot of people that are really good that don't do shit.
They don't, and never.
Yeah, they don't have a desire to. It's just everybody's brain works different. And some people, like, the idea of losing control with a substance is not fun.
Right.
They don't like that feeling. But they can keep their shit together. I know a lot of people that don't drink, they don't do anything, but they keep their shit together. And maybe that's better. For them, they feel like it is. I don't know.
Right.
I know.
As I asked that, you gave me the answer that, to go, you're right. Yeah. But, like, I asked, it means that I had a question about that. And I think I've talked about this in the past, and once I was like, somebody was saying, well, maybe what if you're not experimenting? But no, there's a billion ways to do those things you use pot to do without the pot, obviously.
Well, I think
Can you edit that out?
I use yoga for that too, man. I love going to a hot yoga class. It's fucking hard, and it's like a drug. Like, you get a lot of thinking done in there, man. When you're just holding these poses and there's no music, no nothing, just everybody in the class breathing. It's a 90-minute class. There's some sort of psychedelic effect there. There's some sort of cleansing of the mind. And I think that's one of the things that we overlook when it comes to mental health. That your brain needs to be cleaned out. You can't just like stagnate and think on thoughts. Your brain needs to, your physical body can clean your brain out a little bit, can get rid of some of the stress and tension, and you can see things clearer. Like those terms, stress reduction, tension relief, what does that mean? It means the way you fucking think, okay? You're doing something to your body that radically alters the way you're going to think about things. And everybody's supposed to do it. And one of the problems in society is that you don't do it, but you have these instincts that are built into your body from thousands of years of what what people asked of their bodies 20, 30 generations ago. We're all those same people. So if we don't deal with what our body, just some physical activity, you've got to get the blood flowing. If you don't, you're like an overflowing battery or something.
As far as the stopping thing, think I have a great idea for people to do to get a smidgen of what it's like to stop. If you go, okay, I won't meditate or I won't do this. I get it. But this, if you do it, I promise, whoever does it that's listening will go, you'll get a little taste of it, and it all happens naturally. But it started by accident, but then we started realizing it's about stopping. So like one night, it was about like probably 10 years ago after dinner or before dinner, I had some hot washcloths. And I was like, oh, just like at a Chinese restaurant, joking around. But we all did it, and then we realized, wow, that really stopped us. The heat, putting it on your face.
Right.
So now I have a ritual that I do. I have it all figured out. I get like, the less people, the better, because the hot washcloth has a short shelf life. It has to be so scorching hot when you hand it to people, so by the time they get it to their face. You can't take warm. So I use the tea kettle, pour it all over, like 6 of them. And here's the rule. The radio goes off. Sometimes you think, I'll leave it on. I don't feel like walking over and turning it off. Nope. Even if it's jazz, off. And I ask everybody, check the pulse of the room. If you take yours off and you're ready to start talking, but you see, 3 people still have it on their face, shh. And I go, I'll break it. But just once you get the hot washcloth in your hands, I go, it's going to be hot. You're going to want to go, oh, it's hot. It's way too hot. It's hotter than you think it is. So just get ready. I give everybody one. They put it on their face. No one even has to tell them to take a deep breath. You naturally do after like a second because you need to. So you go, then you let it out. And then I go, wow. And then you literally, spiritually, you shut down. And then you wipe your hands, literally take some of the dirt off your hands from the day. And we always think, holy shit, resetting yourself. That's a simple way to get a taste.
Yeah.
And we always make the joke. We're like, oh, were we just going to eat and then we're going to go throughout the whole day and then, put our food, okay, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I go, no, of course, stop. You got us. And that hot washcloth, it's like, fuck.
Yeah, I think your brain has requirements for those things. Those kind of things. I think those kind of moments are really good for your outlook, a reset. I think that's like the same feeling that maybe a primitive man would get when he would like walk up to the edge of a cliff and see like some crazy view and see nature and birds flying around, the sun. Wow. Hey.
Thank you, folks, for listening. Tune in next week for more podcasts of all podcasts.